to get a better step up on the ladder, or are we already even doing them in by such approaches? And there's no research, there's no stuff to know how really have families been impacted when somebody in your own family has been put to death in such a manner. This does not mean, I repeat again, that we are condoning what they do. There's a difference between the two. And lastly, how fair sometimes is the death penalty mandatory approach, or the discretionary approach, when certain folks, if I'm 50, I believe, I could be wrong on this, 50, 55, I'm off the hook, right? I could be a robust 50, 55. I'm just saying that the way we apply these two alone is problematic for me. I think we do not give a chance at all to any individual in such a process of the mandatory death penalty. So with that, we'll leave it for discussions. Thank you.
Ravi mentioned something a little earlier. Let me remind you. Something about a judge saying there must be finality. The process must take its course. And at some point, even if you have new evidence, there must be finality. I'm going to put it on a more intellectual framework. People believe in the death penalty, and I assume you're going to be interested enough to go out and talk to people who believe in the death penalty. I hope you will do that. People believe in the death penalty because at its core, they believe that sometimes there are ideas more important than life. And those ideas must be protected. Oh, sorry. There are ideas more important than other people's lives. They have ideas like, so when you look at death penalty around the world, you'll see people saying that, oh well, you're going to have to do something about the crime rate, murder, and they have this cherished idea that the death penalty will reduce the murder rate, or it will reduce drug trafficking, or that it will keep a society pious. In some countries, blasphemy is a capital offense. Or you keep some people heterosexual because homosexuality is a capital offense. So basically, they're all the same. Is that people cherish a certain idea, and they say that that idea trumps the value of other people's lives. Those of us who take issue with that are now faced with this problem. How do we convince those other people that no idea, and I'm talking about total abolition, no idea is worthier than a life? We can phrase it in other ways, like redemption, give people a chance, rehabilitation, and so forth. But it boils down to that. And until you can convince the other side that no idea is worth a life, it's going to be really tough, uphill work, trying to achieve abolition. And I'm afraid when you boil it down to that, you realize the problem is not a rational one. You really can't use reason, because ultimately it's a question of values. So if you're going out to talk to your friends and your family members and carry the banner or conduct a vigil, bear in mind, what you are going to be doing is not a logical argument or a rational debate with anybody. You're going to go out to subvert people's value system. That's what you're going to do. Whole societies have had their value system subverted. It can happen. The little booklet, where is that? That thing, World Day. Can you raise it? Wave it. Yeah. It said that at the turn of the 20th century, only 3 countries in the world have fully abolished the death penalty. 100 years later, at the turn of the 21st century, some 2/3 of the countries in the world have. Change happened. And you know why? Because the 20th century was so bloody awful. Literally bloody awful. Israel abolished the death penalty, despite the fact that it faces an existential threat, sometimes of its own making. Europe, faced with the horrors of the Second World War, had an entire continent change its mind. And I don't think it was rational. It was just that, my God, we just cannot face ourselves seeing such killing, to the extent that no state shall ever have that kind of power. In Southeast Asia, one ASEAN country did the same. Guess which one? Cambodia, 1989. Almost immediately after the Khmer Rouge was supplanted, they said never again. A whole country without our level of economic development, you know, we're very advanced, aren't we? Economically, morally, I don't know. They saw the horrors of killing and a whole country changed its mind. The state shall never have that power. So, we're going to go out. Oh yeah, 2 more examples from further afield. Argentina abolished the death penalty in 1984. Exactly 1 year after they chucked out the military dictators who had essentially disappeared, using it as a verb, as an active verb, their political opponents and who were never seen again. So they basically probably just buried them in pits. And after that, when the civilian government took over in 1984, they said no more. Chile, after Pinochet, General Pinochet was replaced by a democratic government, they abolished the death penalty. So that seems to be the major engine for doing it. Does that mean we should wait for some horrors and brutalities in Singapore? But that's what we are up against, all right? We're going to try to convince people without the example of horrors and brutalities. So we're going to be very good at weaving a story, concocting, sorry, wrong word, not concocting. We have to create that human story to touch the emotions of other people. That is a more important approach than using rational argument, whether our justice system is faulty or reliable or not, how much evidence is enough evidence and that kind of thing. I am not sure, because it looks as if we have to use the emotive approach. I have to tell stories and change people at the level of their own humanity. So you go out and you organize and you have vigils and you organize things like what Ravi has done. And next thing you know, the state knows what you are doing. They know that you're going to tell stories. They know that you are out to exercise your freedom of speech to change other people's minds. And the state becomes highly protective of the idea that it wants to protect, which is that Singapore shall be drug-free and we shall be so because we execute our traffickers. And so the state will come down on you and try to deny you that speech. And you'll face all these problems about, you've had them, right? You had this concert that got into trouble, posters that got into trouble, and so on and so forth.